Hello, everyone. What is up? It's Lucas Jackson here, and of course, Josh Porter for another weekly episode talking crap, the extraordinary podcast that we host here on this channel for you all. And we're talking about things that are different this week. We're talking about wrestlers that are different. We're talking about images. We're talking about how the business might progress, into the wacky, weird, wonderful world of alternative in wrestling, as it's quite important, we feel, to kind of include kind of every kind of viewpoint with this. We have a guest, of course, as always, for this, and we're joined. He's wrestled for DKW in the past, but he's trained at Knuckle Locks and has wrestled all around the southeast of England. We'll leave some details in the thing, but please welcome everyone, Billy Haze. So, Billy Haze, welcome to Talk About Podcast. Thanks for coming on and agreeing to this episode, talking about things that are uniquely different, weird, wonderful, in the world of wrestling, of course. We're going to start with quite a broad one. What does identity mean in wrestling in 2021?
Identity in wrestling, so for me personally, there's two different ways of looking at it. There's an identity as in a character, or there's an identity as in yourself. People like to do two different things. I personally like to have my character be myself, so it's very much finding an identity in myself and then finding a way to portray that to an audience in what I like and what I enjoy. Whereas other people very much like the whole idea of having a character and being theatrical and being all these things over the top, which is great. I don't enjoy it as much, just my personal take. But then they have to find a way to be that person when they're in the ring. So they have to find a whole nother side of themselves and find a whole backstory and a whole character, like who this person is, because this is a different person to who you are. You have to find out who they are. You have to find out why they do certain things, why they don't do certain things, like all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess I see it like an actor, I guess, would take on a role. With that one, and so some people like it though. Some people like the whole, they can be Billy Haze on a day-to-day basis. Then at a wrestling show, they can go and be, a character, version of themselves, or So I guess it's tricky because more and more people now though are kind of embracing being themselves and including, people from all different. Wrestling very inclusive. I think we'd all agree. Wrestling is very inclusive.
Yeah.
How would you say looking different or looking, having alternative look, for instance, makes you stand out in wrestling?
I think so. The thing that's helped me with having my look in terms of being alternative is all people want to do in wrestling is support each other, and everyone's just a nerdy kid that's trying to figure out their way in life. And I've kind of put that to the forefront of my character. I would say that I'm just trying to figure out who I am, and that's okay and that's fine. It's okay to try all these new things. If you like it, then you like it, and then you carry on doing that thing. And then if you don't like it, then you leave it. I'm trying to very much embrace that into my character, because I think a lot of people are losing that, the whole trying stuff, especially in wrestling. People are very much trying to do what everyone else has already done. And that's fine, but being alternative is trying to push the mold and trying to make your own thing, make something that's you. So I like to try and okay, what's no one ever done? No one's there's not many guys that wear skirts to the ring. Okay, why? I think skirts look good. I think fishnets look good on me, and they're just things that I find generically attractive on anyone. And I think just finding that mold of what's your niche, and even if someone's done it, how do you do it different, or how do you do it better? I'm very comfortable in my wrestling ability and what I do as a wrestler and a performer, because I know that no matter what I'm doing, I'm the best at it. and if not, I am the best at it. I am soon to be the best at it. I can see myself being the best at it.
Yeah, Paul, from terms of a fan perspective, so some of the stuff that Billy touched upon there, often has been things that have kind of been ridiculed. I think we can agree. Like, obviously, Vito, when he wore a dress in the WWE, it was very much oh my God, that's funny, that a guy's wearing a dress kind of thing. So, Paul, from a fan perspective, do you think fans are going to be more kind of acceptable to this kind of thing change? Because you could argue in popular culture it's changing, because gender being what it is it's different now than it was even 5 years ago, let alone 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
So, Paul, do you think from a fan perspective, fans are one that will accept it more?
I think so, definitely, because you can't be a fan of wrestling and not be considered alternative for yourself. So to then disagree with someone in wrestling being alternative to wrestling, you're then kind of kicking yourself by saying it's wrong. And myself personally, I've always been quite accepting of people that are alternative. Like, I grew up watching Jeff Hardy, one of the most alternative wrestlers of his era.
Yeah.
And he still is one of the more alternative people. But then if you look at some of the music that I listen to as well, you've got Youngblood, Machine Gun Kelly, people that are alternative in their own right. So I think wrestling fans need to be accepting of the alternate people, because they are themselves alternate in some way or another by just being a fan of wrestling.
Because I'd argue that, we mentioned Jeff Hardy there. Like, I'd argue that kind of him being alternative brings in a new fan base to the product. Same way how, like, when CM Punk was obviously, at the top of his game, you'd argue like for like the punk and the straight edge movement, like a lot of those people that were fans of that movement then came in to watch wrestling because there was someone representing them. And so I think it's probably very important. Yeah, Billy.
It's like at the moment, Darby Allin, like he's the whole skateboard culture. He's bringing all of that into wrestling because he was a massive skater before he came into wrestling, and everyone that followed him from that has now continued to follow him throughout wrestling. And he's brought a whole load of new eyes to wrestling through that. Yeah.
So would you? I mean, I'd argue there's some people that. I mean, Jeff's another one. He's probably the start of it, really, where people follow Jeff Hardy no matter what he does. If you're into what he does, then you will follow him, whether he's doing music, whether he's in TNA, whether he's in WWE. So often these fans aren't necessarily promotion fans or even wrestling fans, just they're a fan of that person. And if he's doing wrestling, then you're going to go and watch him do wrestling. So a big part of this, and the main reason why we're here, because you're talking about your Twitch and stuff, and tattoos. I know you're very, very passionate about tattoos. I mean, when I first met you, I think you had only a handful. I think.
I would have been 16, so I would have only been like 5 or 6.
Yeah. Only. He didn't. He wasn't meant to have them, but he found a way.
Yeah.
But, so tattoos, obviously, you are very important, and I'll try to do some research on this. It seems, no matter what source you look at, it seems between 25 and 40% of people at least have one tattoo, depending on where you look, and I guess how honest they are, because some people have embarrassing ones they don't probably disclose. But to you, like, explain to me, someone who's not a tattoo kind of person, like what tattoos mean to you, and what they mean to you in wrestling, I guess.
So something I always say to people is, you're never a stranger when you're in a room with someone with a tattoo, because they've dedicated some part of their life into getting some sort of art on their skin, that whether it's they've gone through a certain amount of pain, or they've gone through a certain amount of emotion, or they've dedicated a part of their life to get something put onto their skin, so you already know a bit about them. Whether like it's something small as like a little crap, or like they've done themselves that means something to them, then you can ask them about that, and there's something to like introduce you. For me, tattoos are a way of like me displaying on the outside of me what's on the inside. Like I like just randomness. Like all of my tattoos are just completely random, because that's literally what goes on in my head. It's just completely random. That's like from point A to point B, it's just like, oh, now I've got a new idea. Oh, now I've got a new idea. Now this is what I'm going to do. Like, and my tattoos symbolize that. And I've tried to symbolize my life through my tattoos, whether it's like the things I enjoy or the things I don't enjoy. And the things, like, I symbolize a lot of the things that have gone wrong in my life, because I feel like they're the things you learn from. So like, if someone walked into a room with me, they can see all my tattoos and they can know a lot of my life story without even talking to me, just through looking at the pictures on my body. And I'm not someone that likes talking a lot, or like, I'm quite unless someone asks me something, I'm not gonna tell someone. So having these tattoos is very much a way for me to like have people talk to me and have people ask me questions for me to tell them my life story, in a way.
So you're saying basically you're comfortable with people, if people ask you what's that tattoo mean, or what's that tattoo, significant for you, that makes you feel more comfortable if someone just said to you, tell me how high school was, or secondary school was, for instance. You feel more comfortable saying this tattoo, let's speak through the art. That part to me makes sense, and a lot of people get that from art, as in, if it is like a painting, for instance, people go, I've got painting that's got stuff here, that the minute people ask me about it, I go, this is what I was doing, this is what went from mine when I bought it, this is who I was with, how I was feeling. And so I guess you're doing it the same, but with your body. I think lots of wrestlers, so with you then, you said, just when you said it, yours were random, because obviously a lot of people have a set design, I guess, or a set kind of finish point for tattoos. There's lots of different ways to do it, I guess, but you're saying yours is kind of random. So is there not a set finish point for you?
Not at the moment. I just want to be covered in tattoos, to be honest with you. Like, I know things like roughly that I want in certain places, but some places I've literally I've left open to be like, okay, if I see something that I like, I want to get it put there. Or like, if I see something that I want, I'm going to get it put there. Like, or if I come up with this weird idea, that's a space for it. Like I know what I'm doing with my entire chest piece, because I want that to be a battle of like the good side and the bad side of my arms, because my right arm's the bad stuff that's happened to me, and my left arm's like all the good stuff that I enjoy, and my chest piece is going to be that. Whereas my legs, I've very much gone, okay, I want this artist. I know what artist I want to do it, but I want them to do whatever they want, because I know that their stuff is really cool, and I just want a piece of their art on me. And us to have that discussion, have that discovery of what I enjoy, and then them transforming that into some sort of art that they can put on my body is something that I would look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, I guess. And I guess, like, if one of those where, if your goal is just to get as tatted as possible, like, that's the goal, I guess, that you have. Are there any areas, because Josh got tattoos as well, actually. I'll ask Josh's question first, and I'll answer the same one. But are there any areas where you wouldn't get tattoos? Starting you first, Josh. Any areas that I'll know.
Anywhere above the thigh and below the belt. Like,
okay, I think I know
in between the top of the thigh and below the belt. And the face. That's about it for me.
Yeah, the face and the hands are always the ones that you get told. I
think when it comes to above my neck, the sides and back are pretty much the only places that are fine.
Oh, interesting. But Billy, would you get a face tat?
I would, but not like the central face, like the side. Like, I'll get something along the side of my face, or along the top, but nothing like central, like anything on my cheeks or anything I wouldn't have.
How old were you when you got the? When did you get the hand ones done? Were those recently, weren't they? Last year, I think.
No, they weren't recent. They're quite a while ago. I got them when I was about 17, I think. I got my first one when I was 17. My second one when I was 18. Because I got this one in England and this one in Portugal.
Yeah. Okay. There. I mean, so is there nowhere that you wouldn't get apart from center of the face? And I'm assuming your genitalia, because I'm assuming a lot of people don't get that.
Right. If it gets to a point where like I get really bored and I'm like, I just want to know what it feels like, then that's the point where I'll go. But as I'm speaking to you at the moment, that's not where I don't want to get anything around there.
Okay.
But I have always gone through like piercings and stuff like that. I'm like, I just want to know what it feels like.
Okay.
I want to know if that hurts a lot. So I just want to see if that does.
It's like curiosity factor, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it would.
I'm assuming it would.
I see how red you've gone about that question. I thought it had to be said. Like, you can't avoid.
No.
An area.
Yeah.
If you ask me the question, like, if you said, Lucas, you have to get 1 to 2. Where's the one area you don't want it? That'd be my first kind of thing. Like, I wouldn't want it. So I assume that you guys would.
I mean, it also look a bit weird if I'm completely covered in tattoos and like that's the one area that's not.
It's like a tagline, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we mentioned a couple of people, or Josh did actually. We mentioned like Youngblood, and so would you argue that pop culture in general is kind of gearing more towards an alternative look? I mean, in terms of more people being seen in the mainstream with alternative look, like Youngblood, he's someone who, honestly, I watched Graham Norton a few weeks ago, and he was. I
told my mum this, and she loved it. Yeah,
he was on, and obviously I didn't look. People need to know that I literally music up until about 2005, I'm fine, but after that, I am a bit like, who is this person? Who's this person? Who's this person? But Youngblood came on. I didn't know who he was, didn't know what to expect, and I was watching it live. So obviously I couldn't fast forward anything. And I was watching it, and I really enjoyed the performance. And then he comes on, and he starts speaking, and it's just like he's so infectious with his charisma, and it is like
energy.
I know he's a musician. I know, like, obviously, I think to link it into wrestling, I'm just like, well, this guy, like, if you can command like a room full of like celebrities, like, the same thing as being in the ring, like, the same kind of energy I felt from his performance was like, how I envision when Jeff Hardy comes down to the ring and when he's doing his extreme bump. So, like, it's quite important. Would you say? But the question is though, like, would you say that that is now kind of the new in thing, I guess?
Yeah. Punk rock's coming back in. Like, punk rock's the new big thing, and like I very much believe that. Like, I'm trying to do it myself in trying to bring punk rock to wrestling. Like, I love the idea of punk rock and the idea of going, oh, this is the socially accepted norm. Let's not do that. Let's try and question ourselves. Let's go outside the norm. Let's go to what people don't expect us to do. And like, it's a whole mentality. And the way I explain it, are you allowed to cuss on this show?
Yeah. The name is Talking.
Okay.
If we didn't allow swearing,
I saw that, but it had the little star, so I didn't know about if it was like censored or anything.
Oh no, it's for in case like children come across it by accident, they're like, let's avoid that.
No, fair enough. But to me, like, punk rock is very a mentality of fuck it. Like, you want to do something, do it. And there's nothing that sums it up more than wrestling. Like, that's what I did in wrestling. I was like, I want to be a wrestler. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to be a wrestler. Like, that's very much like in like my blood is just that fuck it mentality. Like, oh, this is a thing that I shouldn't be doing. Fuck it, I'm going to try it. Like, I was getting told left, right, and center not to like post me pictures of me in skirts and fishnets and jean shorts. And I kind of had to just go, you know what? All of you lot have been wrong through all of this pandemic and everything. So I'm going to just post it. Fuck it. Like, I'm just going to do that. And it's kind of something that's led me to get some sort of notoriety in like this community.
Well, look, I mean, like, end of the day, like, to someone like me, it doesn't bother me. Like, I'm just one of those people. Like, if people want to be concerned about someone wearing a dress, I think that needs to be something which they need to have a look at of themselves and be like, if I'm that concerned that exists, this thing that exists, it doesn't affect me, doesn't bother me, but for some reason it does because I'm going to post and not like it or say they're not to do it. Like, I think that's more on the person. Them. Yeah. The people that were telling me not to do it were looking out for me in a way that they were like, we don't know how other people are going to perceive this.
Not so. It wasn't so much in a way. Yeah, that's what I mean. That it wasn't so much in a way of like, don't do this because we don't like it. It was in a way of like, we don't know how people are going to perceive this and how other people are going to see it. I have had some backlash from me posting it and people being like, oh, what is this? But that's just like, I've not needed to say anything to the people that have given me any sort of like shit. Like, I've not deleted any of their comments. I've not done anything. Like, everyone has given me shit. I've just left. And either one of my fans or someone that likes the work that I'm doing would support me and post and fight for me, or no one would see it and no one cares.
So, question then: Did you do it to be controversial, or do it just to be good?
I did it to be me. It was something that I was discovering about myself, how I enjoyed, what I enjoyed looking like, how I saw myself and I was like, I look attractive in these. I think I look attractive in these, so I'm gonna wear them. And it kind of led me down that path, and it was something that I wanted to just bleed into wrestling because it was something that I just genuinely liked.
I think it's pretty cool. Like, this kind of stuff never bothered me. As long as I can remember, it's never bothered me. At the end of the day, you got people wear what they want. They're just clothes today, aren't they? We don't like. I don't know why people associate one way or the other. To Josh first, then. So, like, if we established, I think very much, obviously, alternative is more in, but if it becomes more mainstream, does it therefore mean that it's not alternative anymore? Because if the whole feeling is it's meant to be alternative to the mainstream, but if it becomes very popular, it's no longer alternative, you could argue. Is that correct? Or
I'd say no, because just because it's popular doesn't mean it's popular to everyone. It just means that it's popular enough that it's seen everywhere. But I think you're still going to have enough people against it that it remains alternative. Because what you'll see, especially on social media, is you'll have thousands and thousands of people sharing something, which then means it's trending. But just because it's trending doesn't mean it's the number one thing in the world. Is the way I view it anyway. I think just because something's popular doesn't make it mainstream.
The thing is, but to Billy, then, like, if people start, what I'm getting at is if people start getting into it as, like, seeing it as a fad kind of thing, people who are perhaps not alternative but go, okay, alternative is now in, let me have an attempt at doing this, is that going to be a negative thing towards the community?
Not at all. Like, the alternative community is something that everyone can join in, and it's something that is just it. Alternative means express yourself however you want. It doesn't mean being different to the norm. How I see it is, like, it doesn't mean being different to the norm, because being different to the norm is hard, but it means express yourself in however you want to feel. Like, if you want to do something, just do it and feel comfortable in that decision that you've made. So I think alternative will always be on the rise because it's something that is more of a community base of let's all help each other out and let's all support each other. Like, that's alternative. It's everyone supporting each other to do whatever they want. Because no matter what, you're still going to get your, like, Gareths and your Steves watching TV, watching the Good Morning Britain every morning to get their news supply, where they're going to be doing a normal 9 to 5 and they're going to be doing everything accepted. And then when all this stuff that we're pushing for is going to get accepted, they're still going to be doing their stuff because that's how they feel comfortable. But the thing is, that's the majority of them. That's the majority of people.
Yeah.
I guess in terms of the majorities, the casual 9 to 5. This is how I look. I wear a suit. I wear my hair slicked back, and like all this stuff that is like stereotypical for people. That's always going to be the norm because otherwise it wouldn't be a stereotype. If it changes to something else, if the stereotype changes to me, then I guess it's not alternative. But I don't see that happening ever, even if it becomes popular again.
I guess as well, when it's been kind of popular before, and I'm going back to my kind of initial childhood around the time where like Avril Lavigne had the Skater Boy song and kind of Limp Bizkit was still like a big thing. Like that was very big, but it didn't last very long. It then went to, obviously, after that, it was more like hip hop culture, then into obviously, 2010s and all that kind of stuff. So I guess if it was to get very big, there is a possibility that it wouldn't last too long and it would go back. It kind of bit like a elastic band. You stretch it and then it will last that long for a little bit, and it would start snapping back, I guess. And I think
it also just morph into something else, because like I've said it a lot. So a lot at the moment, this new punk wave's coming through. What's going to come after this punk wave is rap, and I know it 100%. After this big punk wave of everyone loving punk music, they're going to start loving rap music, because rap music means the exact same thing. It's got the same meaning behind it. It's got the same emphasis behind it, but it's just sang differently. And that's going to be the new alternative in a way. That's going to just take over from the alternative.
Thing I don't think about with rap though is that A, it's had its heyday, and B, if it was become, I've now seen it as a mainstream thing anyway. Like obviously Eminem is a massive selling artist, so I guess it'd be hard to kind of go back to the roots of rap. But the roots of rap, I agree. Like when you think about punk rock and just lyrically and where people are driven from to write a punk rock song, and then you on the other side you go, okay, rap music, where they lyrically driven to write and talk about this stuff. They are like the same place, like really. Just obviously go in a different kind of path kind of thing.
They're just from two different sides of the world.
Yeah. No, I mean, that kind of makes sense. I do see it linking in. We'll take a pause from the discussion now. It's time for the feared moment of the podcast, of course. We're coming to you, Mr. Porter. It's time for the Pipe Bomb Promo Challenge.
Everyone loves the Pipe Bomb Promo Challenge.
Oh, Jesus, that's the
right, so Billy, if you don't know what the Pipe Bomb Promo Challenge is already, it's very easy to explain. So, you'll be given 1 minute to perform a promo, given two topics of my choice, either a location or a person or a championship, etc., and you'll be scored out of 10, 5 points by me, 5 points by Lucas. Do you understand the rules?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So, your two topics are...
I hope you don't give me anything to do with WWE. I hope you don't.
Oh, I never really do, if I'm honest.
I hope you don't.
I try and associate it with...
Okay.
But
I mean, I'm fine if you do. It's just this is going to go to a place you're not going to want if it's WWE.
So I'm throwing it back here because this is a match that I watched and really enjoyed a few years ago. So you are at CTW in Portugal facing Wild Boar Mike Hitchman.
Jesus.
Your 1 minute to give us a promo on Wild Boar Mike Hitchman and CTW starts now.
All right, Hitch. Like, I've seen you. You're in NXT UK. I get it. You've got a contract. Like, that's all cool and everything. You've trained me. You've like after like we had our match, we had our bout, we had a bit of a scuffle. You've now taught me all I can know about wrestling, and now I am going to prove to you. Not only have I figured out what you've taught me, I've now applied it to myself and made it better. And I am going to come out of this match the king of the package power driver.
16 seconds short of time.
I'll take that. Someone that doesn't do promos, I'll take that.
I mean, the fact that you don't do promos probably just increases the value of a promo, does it not? It's like someone that doesn't. It's like someone that doesn't sign autographs. Signing an autograph, it makes it even more valuable.
Exactly.
So at the end of that, you were on the even episodes, which means you are Team Lucas for this series. And for Team Lucas, do you know what, Lucas? You can score first because I've been scoring first the last few episodes.
So, yeah, I know B doesn't do promos from experience. I think, yeah. Look, I mean, yeah, like you kind of said everything that needed to be said. I like the whole ending of the whole like, I'll be the king of the package pile driver. That line got me. I quite like that. I quite like when people have the same move. It's quite cool. With a little story in there. So yeah, but let's go in the middle then. 3.5 out of 5.
Not bad.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
Obviously, you're under time, so you'd automatically lose a point for that.
He's harsh with time.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. At least I didn't go over.
True. At least didn't go over.
At least I didn't go over.
You stumbled a little bit at the beginning, but it's Pipe Bomb Promo Challenge. You're meant to stumble. After that, I'm going to have to go with a solid 3 for that promo.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
End of that.
I know you've had Joe Lando and Danny Black on here, so I know that I've got like I've got a level where I'm good. I've got a level where I'm good.
Well, Joe Lando is the lowest scorer in Pipe Bomb Promo Challenge history.
Yeah. Danny Black got disqualified.
Yeah, we can't even count.
When you see, you understand.
At the end of that, you scored a 6.5, which is not bad. That's more than half. Like,
I'll take that.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
So that is a 6.5.
0.5% over half.
True.
But yeah, well done. So moving on to our last couple of discussion points then. So something that's interesting about wrestling in the last kind of year or so, but definitely during the pandemic era, is it has seemed to, even in the mainstream, get much more creative. AEW allowing multiverses to be explored through the eyes of Matt Hardy, and obviously in WWE you've got Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, etc., with cinematic stuff. Now, surely, as an alternative wrestler being creative, surely like this new era that is in mainstream wrestling is right up the street of people that are alternative, because for instance, like Bray Wyatt can have his universe because he's Bray Wyatt. You couldn't get Randy Orton doing it because it's Randy Orton. Like he's I'm a serious wrestler and I have 30-minute matches and I'm very serious. But Bray Wyatt, being a different kind of character and a different person, he's able to bring that into wrestling. So like, do you think that creativity in these companies is going to just be upped even more the more people just start being themselves and embrace alternativeness?
Yeah, like it's going to lead to more people going, oh, why isn't this done in matches? I'm just going to do it. Or why isn't this done full stop? I'm just going to do it. Like that's what it's going to lead to. And if it leads to that, then it's just going to lead to us expanding our horizons in terms of like actual wrestling. Like if we're going from so what's like the most normal form of wrestling, like for an example?
What, as in like, well, let's base a Randy Orton match. It's a normal match.
Yeah.
He does normal
normal match. Shine, heat, come back, normal moves, all of that sort of stuff. Okay, so like there's already bases that you can like break it down into, isn't there? Like first off, shine, heat, come back. Why like change that? That's something that everyone does. Change that. How do we change that? Like just add something new. Things like the casual moves that you see everyone doing. Okay, maybe instead of doing all the moves that are like really normal for people to do, let's go outside and let's fight. Let's actually just have a fight. Or like even like what GCW are doing. What do you normally do? You normally put a ring up, you put ropes around it, take the ropes off, have a fight. Have a fight in the center of the ring.
Well, yeah, I mean, even in NXT, they've got the fight pit, which is like a cage thing, and they're doing like fight, like and they have like stuff like Raw Underground and stuff. So, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of wrestling in different places, is what I feel, particularly because of the pandemic. Like,
I was going to say, especially now, people are trying to be more creative with it. I know for a fact that I'm literally planning a match to do outside with no ring or nothing. So that's one example for Crowley's extravaganza or his invitational thing, New Year's Invitational. That was amazing because it was just so much of creativity. It was so much of like, how can we get ourselves over by also following the rules, following the pandemic, and making a match or something that's entertaining. I think we're going to go more away from the actual wrestling side of it and go more into the entertainment side of it. Not to say like that wrestling is wrestling. Like, you need wrestling to get the rest of it, but we're going to have more injections of entertainment.
No, I agree. We've had it. Like I said, we've had it. I think already, like through the mainstream stuff. So I don't see why, when obviously smaller stuff can restart, why people would shift away from it. Porter, like from a fan perspective, like, you know, this must interest you. Like, in a sense of, do you think there is a market for matches? What can we call them? Just non-conventional matches, I guess. Like, you know, either no ring or different location, or, you know, cinematic elements. Like, you know, those kind of matches. Is there a market that is still unfulfilled? Because, you know, they've done quite a lot of them. You know, now I think we're up to about 7 or 8 cinematic style matches, but I think there's still so much to be done. Like, you know, they've just scratched the surface, I think, with these. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I'd say definitely. Like, there's so much more that can be done, and from a fan's perspective, there's so much appeal in it because there's only so much regular wrestling that you can enjoy before it starts getting kind of repetitive. Because obviously you remember when Andrade and Rey Mysterio had a match like 4 or 5 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that, but with the same 10 people. Like, the same roster having the same match week after week. Like, having that little bit, just that one match a month or one match every few months difference really draws in the appeal again. Like, it draws you back in. Like the fight pit in NXT. When Timothy Thatcher and Matt Riddle, they essentially had a UFC style match. Like, that's an appeal to me. Just having something more hard hitting or just something completely different.
Yeah, I think changing how we present wrestling is key, I think. Because obviously, yeah, like, there's so much. I've always said this, I've said this to people so many times. I think B's heard me say it as well. Like, back when we were, you know, driving together, you know, training and stuff. But it's like there's so much wrestling out there that, like, you can't get away from it. There's so much wrestling out there. What's lacking at all these different times has been like something different, and you can present like any kind of show will have, you know, the Randy Orton match. Like, you'll have sometimes like 2 or 3 of those same matches. Whereas with obviously like cinematic stuff or ones that are, you know, different locations, or like you say, like, you know, why can't you change up that format of, you know, you've got to start at the shine, you've got to finish with the. I guess you've always got to finish with a finish. I don't know. There might be a way to do. Can we have a reverse match maybe? You know, can we start thinking about, you know, matches that, you know, start and stop or things like that. You know, it's hard because I was going to ask you for, you know, what kind of things you'd like to see, but I have a feeling, obviously, as you said, you mentioned you have an idea for stuff. I don't want people to end up nicking it, but let's just be more vague. So in wrestling, like, what kind of things would you like to see be done that you haven't seen?
That's a hard one. I'd like to see yarding become acceptable.
Interesting. Orlando, yeah, but with Orlando, he's obviously very keen on this happening, and again, because of pandemic, it's something which I think will happen, as obviously people will get hungry for it.
I think all the best wrestlers are backyarders at some point. There's no, like, all of my favorite wrestlers at the moment used to be backyarders. So, like, I think that needs to become, acceptable for us to, like, to move on in the right direction. Like, some of the best wrestlers are backyarders because they have that mentality of, this is the norm, how can we stray away from it? They already have that ingrained in them.
I guess as well, you see like a lot of, obviously, even under a normal promotion show thing, like if you come to a DK show, like, you know the stuff that you can't do, or like, you know, that I might frown upon. But obviously, when you're doing backyard, it's your own thing, isn't it? So it's a case of, well, fuck it.
Yeah.
Like you said, that attitude is fuck it. Like, I can do what I want, kind of thing. But when you're under a normal show conditions, and it usually is because of the venue, because of the crowd, because of whatever it might. There's always some sort of reason usually why you can't do something. But backyarding allows obviously much more creativity. But is there a way to make backyarding mainstream / profitable though?
GCW did a backyard show. GCW did a backyarding show. And it was during COVID, so they didn't make a profit from it, but they were planning to sell tickets to go to someone's back garden and watch wrestling. And it was just a load of the old American guys yarding. They used to yard.
So potentially there is then, like obviously once the pandemic is over, potentially like there is. So final thoughts then, final kind of thoughts then, coming out of this. Who is kind of at the moment a wrestler or wrestlers, if they're a tag team or stable, whatever, that you think are really doing justice to this alternative movement that's going throughout wrestling?
I don't think there's that many people that are doing it. Rhea Ripley's doing it. Tony Storm's doing it. A lot of the women are doing it more than the men. Charlie Evans is doing it. I can't think of a lot of guys that are doing it. That's one of the reasons that I put myself in it, to be honest. I can't think of many guys that are pushing ourselves to be in that form of wrestling. I think in terms of a wrestling standpoint, the people that are pushing everything forwards is Will Ospreay. But in terms of like pushing the alternative mold, it's got to be people like Tony Storm and Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, I'd argue because of women, they had a lot of barriers to break down. It was, 10 years ago, it was you were a diva and you had tits and ass and you did moves that focus and feature them. And obviously now it is a case where you've got women like, Charlotte Flair, Asuka, Rhea Ripley, just having matches that are good. And people go, they're not just women's matches, they're good matches, and they're able to do things like, and they've really pushed a lot of those barriers. Same question to you then, Josh. Like, is there who's at the forefront of this kind of alternative movement at the moment, would you say?
I think Jeff Hardy's always going to be the founding father of alternative wrestling.
The godfather of alternative wrestling.
Because the face paint, the punk rock music, just... He is the founding father of alternative wrestling. So in terms of who's pushing it, I'd agree Rhea Ripley, Tony Storm, anyone that looks different to what you'd expect a wrestler to look.
I guess like Shotzi Blackheart would be another one.
I did think of another.
Shotzi Blackheart.
Shotzi Blackheart.
A perfect example.
Yeah. Darby Allin. Very much. Darby Allin I completely forgot about. We spoke about him as well, but I completely forgot about Darby Allin.
Even Sting, I'd say, was kind of pushing the alternative when he was in his prime.
He was full of time. He was full of time.
But I think as well, Sting obviously was based on the Crow. Like his face paint. So the second face paint was based on the Crow, and you do obviously have going down this whole it doesn't have to always be the kind of tatted up kind of people, let's say. It is like Kenny Omega's a video game. He brings that into wrestling. Even at the New Day, they have...
I was thinking Kenny.
Yeah, in terms of just doing something different and trying to get a different... I guess getting a different section of the audience, I guess. Like Kenny Omega, he has the gaming community who would come in and watch wrestling. But look, Billy, it's been great, catching up. And I've learned quite a lot, especially regarding the tattoos, to be fair. I think I'll start seeing them much more differently on people and start thinking about, how people are thinking, about it. But yeah, coming next week, we're talking about tag team wrestling or modern tag team wrestling in general, actually, with DKW Tag Team Brotherhood. Until then, stay safe, everyone. I've been Lucas Jackson, joined by Josh Porter, of course, and our guest, Billy Haze. Until next week, thank you very much and goodbye.
Take it easy.